Welcome to our module, Geography GES22 or GEO2. That is what we call a second module or module 2. And again, compliments for the new year and wishing you all the best for this academic year. My contact details is they appeared, more specifically important, my mobile phone, and I need us to have contact hours that I put between 5 and 7 or 17 to 1900 hours. After that time, there is no inquiries. So, as we used to say, always when you are presented with your question paper, make sure that you follow the instruction that the question paper is on top of the question paper of what to do so that you can able to gain marks. And always the question that I like to emphasize before I go further is when we ask a question of differentiate, where most of the students use just to write something and they have to use the term and that we do not really want to use, because differentiate, it means that you have to use comparison terms because you are differentiating between the two items, not to put them together. Because when you use and, that and is putting two items together. Emphasis again, I have to place it on for you to look at the mark that are awarded at the end of each questions, and then you give your answer which is equal to the mark that are awarded at the end of each questions. If the marks is 3 marks, you give 3 points, then you get your 3 marks. And if you don't understand the question while you are trying to answer it, read it over so that you can understand. Means that read between the lines before you attempt on providing an answer. Otherwise, you will going to lose the marks unnecessary. GEO22 or GEO2 is only covers units of your study guide from Unit 9 to the last unit, which is Unit 15. And this is what have to be assessed in this paper. Which means that when you are doing GEO22, you do not need to start from Unit 1. But you have to start at Unit 9 to 15 because your study guide is divided into 2. As I have to emphasize, problem or mistake that I encountered, most of the students, they are not using their study guide at all. They decide either to Google something and irrelevant answers, and that is what they have to provide. But your study guide is there as your main tools to pass your examination. So stick to it. Play to the rules, and you should be at the safe side. So, topics under assessment. We are having the environmental at risk, that we find it falling somewhere between topic 8 and the topic 9. With it, I would like you to understand the topics like deforestation, desertification, global warming, acid rain. Things that you need to look at: the causes of each phenomena, the effect of it, and the solution. So look what causes it, how does it affect our livelihood, environment that we live on as well, and what should we do to tackle the problem of either of those phenomena. So then we come to the topic energy resources. Most important with energy resources, look at the renewable and the non-renewable sources. Know and understand the meaning of what is renewable resources and what is non-renewable resources. You must group them so that you can able to have an understanding. you must also able to identify those different types of energy resources when you find them in the picture. Understand why we are emphasizing as at least to have one type. We prefer one type over the other. What is the reason behind it? Why the other type of energy resources is in demand while the other is losing to the other type of resources, or that you need to be able to understand them. So also look at the impact of energy use on people and the natural environment. As you either using electricity that is produced through or with the help of coal as an energy resources, what does that coal have on the environment? To us humans, how does it affect our natural environment that it have to bounce back to us, that it have to change us in our environment completely? So also know the power plants where we have to produce them and why they are where they are. Country where we produce them and where they are on demand and where they are not on demand. So be able also to identify, as I said, a power plant on the diagram and be able to explain the process of how it is used to produce electricity. Then we come to the employment structure. Employment structure, you need to know the activities that is taking place there, or how many numbers of people are being employed, for example, in our economic sector, like in primary, secondary, and tertiary, so that you can able to tell us which country is a developing country and which country is a developed country, and why you say that this country is a developing country and another is a developing country. For example, we want you to understand how to fill in a bars of percentage of employment structure. The bar is made out of 100%, and it's having key that is always guiding you. And that bar have to be filled in complete, not half of it, because it stands on 100%. So for you to identify that this country is a developed country and this country is a developing country, then its population have to be employed. More population will be employed in a specific industry, for example, or activity. For example, for a developing country like Namibia, a lot of our population is employed in agriculture. Therefore, you will find that the bar is having might be a 70-something percentage or a 60-something percentage in agriculture, while in secondary and tertiary, you're going to have less people employed there. Then, it's opposite when a developed country, because most of the population of a developed country is employed on tertiary activity, which have to show you that this country is well advanced compared to other countries. So that is what you need to know on employment structure. Then we come to the industry system. Our industry system is divided into primary, secondary, and tertiary. Now, it's called a system simply because it has to follow a planned, organized, planned system. that is having input, output, and process. That's why they have to call it is a system. Now, with industry system, we are having activity that is taking place in primary, in secondary, and in tertiary, where we also have to find our people employed on those specific activities. Primarily, it has to do with everything that we just have to provide from nature. Is fall under primarily. Activities like agriculture, farming is part of agriculture as well. Let me say mining and the fishing industry. They are all have to fall in agriculture. Anything that we have to obtain from nature is falling under primary activity, where our agriculture falls. Once now we take these raw materials in the primary, and we train them now to turn them into useful product. Like maybe you take a cotton, you make a cloth so that you can able to wear it. Now immediately when it's no longer a cotton, but you turn cotton into a useful product like a cloth, then it falls under secondary activity. Therefore, we give another name to the secondary activity or to the secondary industry that is a manufacturing processing industry. Why? Simply because we are turning the raw material into useful product. Then we came to the tertiary activity. That is a service provider activity, whereby teaching, for example, is taking place there. The lawyers, police office, all the services that you are getting from commercial institutions like banks, they are falling into tertiary activity. That's why now at developed country, that is taking a lot of portion for percentage of people that are employed in that specific countries. So you need to understand what is an input, what is a process, what is an output. And you now have to place them according to primary, secondary, and tertiary. And you see question most of the time, with us, we are having primary and secondary activity, case study of fishing industry in Namibia, or the mining industry in Namibia. Then we are going to give you a picture where we are going to ask you to identify the type of industry, and they will ask you to explain what is meant by that type of industry, and they will ask you to identify a type of process that is taking place there. Therefore, you need to read and understand this primary, secondary, and tertiary activity or industry with the help of employment structures as well. And do not forget the idea of major economic developed country plus the less economic developed country. How is this portion is divided at a different level of countries? This topic, that is also where we find tourism. Our tourism industries, we want you to know the meaning of the term tourism itself, two types of tourism, and you must identify the physical features. Things, for example, in Namibia, we have plenty of them that are attracted tourists to come to our country so that they can view the scenery or take picture of the scenery of the beauty of our country. Apart from the physical or the natural factors, we are also, all attractions, we are also having the human attractions. Those are now created by us humans. And most of the time, they have to come and, or they have to attract tourists from different countries to come and look at the beauty of this human attraction that are still here in Namibia. More specifically, we talk in terms of the old buildings that the colonizers built and left here behind us. For example, in Windhoek, we have that church, we call it the Artfest Church or whatever that you call it. And we are also having the fort at Namtuni, close to Etosha National Park. All those one are old building, and the other style of old building that you find at coastal towns, starting from Usakos toward the coast. Most of the time, the people have to come and they look at those old design, and so that's the fourth. And the fiscal one now are those one got created. You look at our gross garment, for example. You look at the meteorites that fall close to Tsumeb, and the many more. So now, when you look at the tourism industry, you look now at the benefits that the tourist brought to our country, as well as the problem that it comes with it. Whenever there is good things, problem also have to happen. Okay? And we look now at things, how we advertise our platform for tourism to the outside world, so that they can able to come and see, and the things that are giving them the courage to keep and continue coming. You must understand them. Agriculture is the same as industrial activity. The farming system. And we usually want to make a difference between a commercial farming and a subsistence farming. Commercial farming is where a farmer has to produce to make a profit. Subsistence farming is the one that have to do with how traditionally we have to toil the land so that we can sustain our livelihood. We look at how a land used in agriculture, be it on a commercial farm, be it on subsistence farm, is influenced by natural factors. And those natural factors, we are talking in terms of climate, temperature, the soil at that specific area, and the type of farming a person is engaged into. So therefore, like industry, agriculture is also a system that is having input, output, and a process. For example, a farmer is farming with crops, be it a commercial farmer, be it a subsistence farmer. It's obvious a fiscal input there or a natural factor or a natural input should be land, because you cannot farm out of nowhere. And the process is when you have to cultivate, work on the land, so that you can able to produce. And the output, for example, will be the seeds that you can use for the next season, the agricultural waste. If you are farming with animals, it will be meat, the calf as well, and the process it have to repeat. And you need also to understand how people work out to increase the output so that they can able to increase their input, because you do not want to produce the same thing over and over. You need to improve so that you can have profit. And understand between the different types of farming, one is made for the family consumption, and the another is to make a profit. So we look at the settlements, our rural and urban settlement, as we said, where we look at our informal settlement. The settlement, we need to look at different types of settlements that you are having. We are talking in terms of new created, linear, and the clustered. We want to understand the format that they are following in order for them to be found wherever that we have to find them. The informal settlement, it came with development. And most of the time, we put it in a question where we have to deal with a case study, whereby we want to look at, for example, a problem that informal settlement is bringing. And most of the time, we ask you a question that have to say for example, a named specific area that you study. Describe how local authority encountered a problem in informal settlement. That we have plenty of them. Everywhere in every town in Namibia, we are having them. And here in Windhoek, we have a good example of Havana, the Okahanja Park, and so does the fourth. And we will most of the time ask a question as well. Service provision that is made either by municipality or by the local council, which is you find at those specific area. And you will find most of the students, they have to face such a question. But things are happening around them. That's why I have to say everything that you have to study, make sure that you localize it before you put it at international. Why do you want to give me an informal settlement that is coming from Soweto in South Africa, while you are living your own Okahanja Park here in Namibia? So with it, either be it a rural settlement and informal settlement, we want to know the problem that the residents have to face, people that are living at that specific area, and then we also want to know the length order services according to the size of each and every settlement. What services is provided there and the way it's provided there. Then we look at the multinational companies. Have an example of multinational company. Study the case study of a multinational company that we also call the transnational company. With it as well, they are having benefits and the problem that they are bringing to the local people. Have your own example of a multinational companies, and we are having plenty of them here as well. In Namibia, we do not need to go outside. The like of Coca-Colas, the Shell, the Puma Service Station, the KFC, all of those things are multinational companies. Look at them, study them in detail, see benefits that they brought to the local people and the problem they are bringing with it. More specifically, profit that have to be taken back to the mother country because they are not originated here. They came from somewhere before they came here. Therefore, with it again, those problems, we want also to see how we can able to go about it. Different industrial system, I talked about it already. Tourism and leisure, I also discussed it when I touched the topic of tourism. Therefore, I do not need to go about that one. Migration. Look at the key that usually provided at a map that you are given for migration so that you can able to identify the local and the international one. So push and the pull factor, definition of different types of migration, the voluntary and the involuntary migration, as well as you look at the reason for movement, benefit to a receiving area, and how it disadvantages the losing area where the people are coming from. So that's the thing you need to know about migration. And when you are providing reasons for migration, make sure that avoid the use of the word a lack of education, for example, but rather say poor education. So I talked about, before I move from migration, when we ask you to describe pull and the push factor, make sure that you avoid contrasting the idea of saying they are moving due to poor education and the better education. Choose another point. Avoid the one because it will make you lose marks. Because you want to see different ideas because they are plenty. So agriculture system, I talk about it, is where I talk about commercial and subsistence farming. Rural settlement, I also visited it. I think I happened to repeat this slide. So the skills that you need to apply, make sure that you use information of or describe features that are shown in photographs. That skill should always come out because we want you to see if you can able to examine and explain what is in front of you and interpret what you see. Therefore, you must master that skills. As those photos, as we place them on those examination paper, for example, they are not only there to guide you, they are also there to provide answer. Therefore, make sure that you use the information that you take from a picture that is in front of you. For a C question that, for a question, last question that is always 3.3, not C, that most of the time having 7 marks, which usually used to ask you that for a named area you have studied or for a named country that you have studied, provide whatsoever. We want you to use a case study in every end of the topic that you have to touch, because case studies, they are provided there. And if you decide to come up with your own case study, make sure that it go hand in hand with a question that you are dealing with. Let me say you are doing a case study on the fishing industries. If you do not want to opt for the Namibian that you are given there, you can Google from other area. It's fine. It is acceptable. You are doing a case study that have to do with agriculture, for example. Look at the Namibian example. If you do not want the one in the book, use for the neighboring country. It's fine. It's acceptable, as far as it's a true information that you have to provide. So, map work. That also happened to present us with a problem here. Look at the key provided. Do all the measurement needed according to the question, and make sure that you are answering the questions. So with your map work, for example, you are having things of measuring the distance, doing the bearings between point A to point B, converting the distance, all these informations, you need just to look at the key, but with those one, you need to pick up a skill of how to go about it. That's why when you start on your map work, for example, ensure that when you are doing a measurement of something, you consult me. Measuring direction, for example, or bearings, that usually we have to do it clockwise, not anti-clockwise. You make sure that you are having the full circle that can give you a 300 degrees. And you must know where to place your protractor, where to end with it, what to add to which number. With the help of your other notes that you have to do as you have to study. The services is a matter of you knowing what services are we referring to here, so that you can able to pick them up on the maps. And then we want you to use the key. For example, we give you a specific town in a certain area of the map where you are having keys like S, like H, that have to represent the hospital and the schools. You can able to see is S is written in the hospital, then when you come to give your answer, you make it education. Education can take place anywhere. It can take place in churches as well, or any building that is not a school. That's why we want you to define that S. S, it have to appear on your key. We want to see that H, what does it represent on the key. At the same time, we also want you to provide different types of agriculture activity that you find in the map by looking at the map, and then now try to see what is being represented at the key. Different types of mining that is taking place on that map, but make sure that your main guide must be a key that is provided there, or a legend that is being provided at the end of your map. If you happen to have a map and it doesn't have a key, then there's no way that you can able to use the map, and they have to indicate accordingly. Okay? So with the research, we can put a research, but that research have to be based on the topic that are falling under the under your module, topic that are given under your module, as we said, module 9 to module 12. If we have to put a research there, it means that our research have to be based either on those agriculture, settlement, migration, energy, and so does the fourth, where you need to. Here on this topic, we do not need anything that have to do with physical geography. It's mostly human geography in this paper. Therefore, here you need to know how to design a questionnaire and how to design research questions and how to process the information, different types of graphs, the bar graph, the pie charts, in the other table form, for example, the table that you are having there, or information that you put in forms of an extract. Those are the research that you have to deal with in this topic. Then we come to your management of water resources. We just want to know the sources of our water in Namibia, things like the aquifer, how to protect our water resources, and at the same time how to get our water from wherever that we are getting it from. At the same time, we also want to know how different parts of Namibia actually is being provided with water. Remember that we are not staying at the same area. As some of the people are getting the water from the aquifer, some are getting them from the rivers, some are getting them through the tap. But the process of Elena saying that a person is getting water from bottles in Namibia to use in houses like flushing toilets or to cook with, that will going to be not a true factor at all. It's something else. Yes, water can be harvested and you bottle them, but the usual that water is used for drinking only, is not used for domestic purposes. But our resources now, our wetland areas, we need to protect them. Therefore, it's your responsibility to know how we should protect our wetlands areas. The skills of using information is obvious, have to come from the photograph, and the issue of a named area, I already touched that one, and I cannot emphasize it further. So, make sure you use your study guide or your booklet that are written school subject, and your unity is 9 to 15. Make sure you prepare for your examination beforehand. Draw your timetable to study so that you can able to write your examination or your assignment that I know you already did. And the study guide is that one that is compiled by Dr. Devet in 2013. And then make sure you really stick to the unit that you are given on your study guide. Otherwise, I have to say good luck for preparing your examination, be it April 1, be it August 1, be it the supplementary November 1. I am open for inquiry. So good luck with your study until we meet again. Thanks.